Hello. Happy Valentine's Day. Welcome to Playcrafters of Skip Pack. I am Claudette. I am the maitre d' of this fine eating establishment. Our chefs backstage are hard at work preparing the dishes that will enthrall your palates this evening. But first, there are a few notes to address. Please turn off your cell phones. Alerts of any kind will disturb your fellow guests and the servers on stage.
Silent mode doesn't count. Fully off, please.
Also, with sound in mind, if you have a small piece of candy you plan to keep, unwrap it now and throw the trash in the can when you leave.
Also, for wine cups, please, no trash on the table.
There will be an intermission mid-program for restrooms and further unique refreshments. We'll also be raffling off a couple great gift baskets downstairs after the show. One basket is valued at around $100, and there's a basket that's valued around $300. So be sure and get your raffle tickets for those. If there is an emergency,
The exits are here,
And here.
and please be aware, there will be short bursts of violence, noise, and screaming in tonight's performance.
We would like to acknowledge a new season-long sponsor, the Grand Fromage here in Skippack, bringing the world's finest cheeses to your table. They will be providing cheese spreads for the opening nights of all 6 main stage shows this season.
Playcrafters of Skip Pack is a 501c3 nonprofit arts organization that has been providing a variety of live quality community theater in Skip Pack, PA for over 75 years. Yeah, that's right. All right, I love it. Very good, very good. I like it. That's right, thank you. We gladly accept donations, and we actually have QR codes downstairs to make it easier and more convenient to make this silly nonsense. So if you're interested in helping out, please talk to one of our volunteers or check us out online at www.playcrafters.org.
I don't think it's nonsense.
Just read the promo.
Oh, okay. Next up at Playcrafters, Arsenic and Old Leaf by Joseph Kesserling. Experience the unforgettable charm of this classic, a darkly comedic tale that follows the delightful yet macabre antics of 2 elderly sisters who serve poisoned wine to wealthy gentlemen in their Brooklyn boarding house.
And with that, enjoy Romance of a Telltale Heart. Let's see if we can find you a waiter. I do love Valentine's Day. It reminds me of a poem. Romance, who loves to nod and sing with drowsy head and folded wing. What does romance mean to you?
I think I like the romance of nature. Among the green leaves as they shade, far down in some shadow.
Waiter will be with you in just a moment. They're just getting things ready in the back.
Do you have any thoughts on romance?
Oh, let me see. A painted paroquet had been a most familiar bird.
Taught me my alphabet to say, to lisp my very earliest word. Sorry.
Well, in the wild wood I did lie, a child with most glowing eye.
Of late, eternal condor years, so think the very air on high.
This one's supposed to be serious.
With tumult as they thunder.
I really can't cover your shift. Why can't you ask?
It's just one night.
You still owe me for the last time.
Hour.
With tumult as they thunder by.
86 to poultry tonight.
I'll pass that along. With tumult as they thunder by. I hardly have had time for cares through gazing at the unquiet sky. Sorry, that was me. The little elf babies.
And
when an hour with calmer wings sits down upon my spirit flings. Oh, I do not do parties larger than 20. Hello? Should be right. That little time with lyre and rhyme to while away forbidden things, my heart would feel to be a crime did it not tremble with distress. Hello and welcome. I am Florence. Flo if we're familiar, but we'll see how the night goes. I will be your waiter for this evening's program. Now, my colleagues on the kitchen staff and my fellow waiters are very excited to present you with this evening's curated culinary experience. Your menus tonight are not just for show. Even though it will be a prefix menu, your waiters have created for you a helpful guide to keep you appraised on each dish to come. Now, while I will be happy to hear about any allergies and food sensitivities, I am very sorry to say that our head chef has specified that there will be no modifications or substitutions this evening. We will have poetry. There will be prose. But I'm afraid limerick had to be left off the menu this evening. Now then, we'll be starting you off with a series of appetizers and some small plates before we get to the entrees. Our sommelier should be out soon to discuss with you your wine pairings for the evening. Now, don't worry, we have lots of wonderful options, but I've heard some really great things about an imported pipe of Amontillado sherry we recently acquired. Following a short break, I will return to explain your final entrees and desserts. All of that is yet to come, though. For now, your first appetizer should be ready in just a moment. You will be presented with a series of 3 appetizers, an amuse-bouche to prepare you for the romantic evening. The first is a marvelous warm seafood fritter. The second is a canapé plate with beef pâté on toasted baguette with burrata cheese and balsamic vinegar. And then we'll finish off with a cold salad of fresh greens.
It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. Oh, I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love. I and my Annabel Lee. Oh, with the love that the winged seraphs in heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee. So that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. But the angels, not so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who are wiser than we, of those who are older than we. And neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And the stars never rise, but I see the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, and her tomb by the sounding sea.
Ah, broken is the golden bowl, the spirit flown forever. Let the bell toll, a saintly soul glides down the Stygian river. And let the burial rite be read, the funeral song be sung, for she, most lovely of all the dead that ever died, so young. And Guy de Vere, hast thou no tear? Weep now or nevermore. See on yon drear and rigid bier, oh, lies thy love, Lenore. Yon air, whose cheeks of pallid hue with tears are streaming wet, see only through their crocodile dew a vacant coronet. False friends, ye loved her for her wealth, and hated her for her pride, and when she fell on feeble health, ye blessed her that she died. How shall the ritual then be read? The requiem how be sung for her most wronged of all the dead that ever died so young? Cavimus, but rave not thus, but lift thy song to God so mournfully that she shall hear no wrong. The sweet Lenore hath gone her forward, with young Hope at her side, and thou art wild for the dear child that should have been thy bride. Sweet Lenore, for her the fair and debonair, that now so lowly lies. Life still there upon her hair, the death upon her eyes. Avaunt! Tonight, my heart is light, no dirge will I upraise, but waft the angel on her flight with the pain of old days. Let no bell toll, lest her sweet soul amid its hallowed mirth should catch the note as it doth float up from this damned earth. To friends above, from fiends below, the ethereal ghost is written, from grief and moan to a golden throne, beside the King of Heaven.
Elizabeth. It surely is most fit, logic and common usage so commanding. In thy own book that first thy name be writ, Zeno and other sages notwithstanding. And I have other reasons for doing so, besides my innate love of contradiction. Each poet, if a poet, in pursuing the muses through their bowers of truth or fiction, has studied very little of his part. Read nothing, written less, in short's a fool. Endued with neither soul, nor sense, nor art, being ignorant of one important rule. Employed in even the thesis of the schools, called, I forget the heathenish Greek name, called anything, its meaning the same. Always write first things uppermost in the heart. XOXO Edgar.
Hello again. Everything come out okay? Wonderful, wonderful. So happy to hear it. Next up, our chefs have for you. Has the sommelier not been out to see you yet? No. Okay. Well then, I need to check on that right away. Regardless, we have prepared for you in just a moment a pair of small complimentary dishes. The first is our take on an Italian wedding soup, or a bridal bisque, as we've come to call it. Honestly, we've thrown a healthy bit of heavy cream into a carrot soup and tripled the price, but you didn't hear it from me. After the soup is a favorite of mine, a variation on 4 flights of stuffed bell peppers. Always the crowd favorite as well. Please let me know if there's anything else you need. Ah, here it comes now.
Have you prepared your vows?
Not yet.
Have you prepared your vows?
The ring is on my hand, and the wreath is on my brow.
Satins and jewels grand, and many a rood of land are all at my command.
And I am happy now. He has loved me long and well, and when he breathed his vow, I felt my bosom swell. For the words were his who fell at the battle down the dell. And who is happy now? But he spoke to reassure me.
And I kiss your pallid brow.
And a reverie took o'er me, and to the churchyard bore me. And I sighed to him before me, oh, I am happy now.
And thus they say I plighted an irrevocable vow. And my friends are all delighted that your love I have requited.
And my mind be much benighted if I am not happy now.
Lo, the ring is on my hand, and the wreath is on your brow. Satins and jewels grand, and many a rood of land are all at my command.
And I must be happy now.
So I spoke.
And I have spoken.
And they registered the vow.
And though my faith be broken, and though my heart be broken,
Would that God I would awaken,
I know
and perchance to dream.
I know not how, and my soul is sorely shaken, and the dead who is forsaken may not be happy now.
Lest an evil step be taken.
You're married.
Here are the sledges with the bells, silver bells. What a world of merriment their melody foretells. How they tinkle, tinkle, tinkle in the icy air of night, while the stars that oversprinkle all the heavens seem to twinkle with a crystalline delight, keeping time, time, time in a sort of runic rhyme to the tintinnabulation that so musically wells from the bells, 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 from the jingling and the tinkling of the bells.
Hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells. What a world of happiness their harmony foretells. Through the balmy air at night, how they twinkle with delight through the molten golden notes, and all in tune. What a liquid ditty floats to the turtle dove that listens while she gloats on the moon. Oh, from the sounding cells, what a gush of euphony voluminously wells.
How it swells, how it dwells
on the future, how it tells
tells
of the rapture that impels from the swinging and the ringing of the bells,
bells,
bells, of the bells,
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 bells, to the rhyming and the chiming of the bells.
Hear the loud alarum bells, brazen bells. What a tale of terror now their turbulency tells. In the startled ear of night, how they scream out their affright. Too much horrified to speak, they can only shriek. shriek out of tune in a clamorous appealing to the mercy of the fire, in a mad expostulation with the deaf and frantic fire, leaping higher, 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 with a desperate desire.
And a resolute endeavor.
Now to sit or never by the side of the pale-faced moon. Oh, the bells, 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 what a tale their terror tells, of despair, how they clang and clash and roar, what a horror they outpour.
On the bosom of the palpitating air.
Yet the ear it fully knows, by the twanging and the clanging, how the danger ebbs and flows.
Yet the ear distinctly tells.
In the jangling and the wrangling,
How the danger sinks and swells.
by the sinking or the swelling, in the anger of the bells, of the bells, of the bells.
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 Bells, 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 in the clamor and the clangor of the bells.
Hear the tolling of the bells, the iron bells. What a world of solemn thought their melody compels. In the silence of the night, how we shiver with affright at the melancholy menace of their tone. For every sound that falls from the rust within their throats is a groan.
And the people.
Ah, the people.
They dwell upon this steeple,
All alone.
and who toll,
Tolling,
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 tolling, in that muffled monotone, feel a glory in so rolling on a human heart a stone.
They are neither man nor woman.
They are neither brute nor human.
They are ghouls, and their king it is who tolls, and he rolls, 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 rolls the pen from the bells. And he's made with some swells with the pen of the bells,
And he dances.
and he yells
Keeping time.
Time.
Time. In a sort of runic rhyme.
to the pen of the bells,
Of the bells.
Keeping time.
Time.
Time. In a sort of runic rhyme.
to the rolling of the bells, of the bells,
Bells,
bells, to the sobbing of the bells.
Keeping time.
Time.
Time as he knells, knells,
Knells,
knells,
In a happy runic rhyme.
to the rolling of the bells, of the bells,
Bells,
bells, bells,
to the tolling of the bells.
of the bells,
Bells,
Bells.
Bells.
bells,
bells,
bells, to the moaning and the groaning
Of
of
the
the bells.
We have come to our first proper full entree of the evening. A colorful dish of baby potatoes with parsley and heavenly Dijon sauce with freshly grated Parmesan. Where is your wine? The sommelier not? No. Okay, I'll be back in a moment. Please enjoy your food in the meantime. Following this dish, we will have a short intermezzo downstairs. Please take this opportunity to try a few of our previously served dishes if for some reason you did not have a chance to have a bite previously. Sammy! What? The party table!
I am come of a place noted for vigor of fancy and ardor of passion. Men have called me mad, but the question is not yet settled whether madness is or is not the loftiest intelligence, whether much that is glorious, whether all that is profound does not spring from disease of thought, from moods of mind exalted at the expense of the general intellect. Those who dream by day are cognizant of many things which escape those who dream only by night. In their great visions, they obtain glimpses of eternity and thrill in awaking to find that they have been upon the verge of the great secret. In snatches, they learn something of the wisdom which is of good, and more of the mere knowledge which is of evil. They penetrate, however, rudderless or compassless, into the vast ocean of the light ineffable. We will say then that I am mad. I grant at least that there are two conditions of my mental existence. A condition of lucid reason, not to be disputed, belonging to the recollection of events forming the first epoch of my life, and a condition of shadow and doubt, appertaining to the present, and to the recollection of what constitutes the second great era of my being. Therefore, what I shall tell you of the earlier period, believe, and to what I may relate of the later time, give only such credit as may seem due, or doubt it altogether. She whom I loved in youth was the sole daughter of the only sister of my mother, long departed. Eleonora was the name of my cousin. We had always dwelled together beneath a tropical sun in the valley of the many-colored grass. No unguided footstep ever came upon that valley, for it lay far away up among a range of giant hills that hung beetling around the valley, shutting out the sunlight from its sweetest recesses. No path was trodden in its vicinity, and to reach our happy home, there was need of putting back with force the foliage of many thousands of forest trees, and of crushing to death the glories of many millions of fragrant flowers. Thus it was that we lived all alone, knowing nothing of the world without the valley, I and my cousin and her mother. From the dim regions beyond the mountains at the upper end of our encircled domain, there crept out a narrow and deep river, brighter than all save the eyes of Eleonora, and winding stealthily about in mazy courses, it passed away at length through a shadowy gorge, among hills still dimmer than those whence it had issued. We called it the River of Silence, for there seemed to be a hushing influence in its flow. No murmur arose from its bed, and so gently it wandered along that the pearly pebbles, upon which we loved to gaze, far down within its bosom, stirred not at all, but lay in a motionless content, each in its own old station, shining on gloriously forever. The margin of the river, and of the many dazzling rivulets that glided through devious ways into its channel, as well as the spaces that extended from the margins away down into the depths of the streams until they reached the bedded pebbles at the bottom. These spots, not less than the whole surface of the valley, from the river to the mountains that girdled it in, were carpeted all by a soft green grass, thick, short, perfectly even, and vanilla perfume, but so besprinkled throughout with the yellow buttercup, the white daisy, the purple violet, and the ruby red asphodel, that its exceeding beauty spoke to our hearts in loud tones. And here and there, in groves about this grass, like wildernesses of dreams, sprang up fantastic trees, whose tall, slender stems stood not upright, but slanted gracefully towards the light that peered at noonday into the center of the valley. Their bark was speckled with a vivid alternate splendor of ebony and silver, and was smoother than all, save the cheeks of Eleonora, so that but for the brilliant green of the huge leaves that spread from their summits in long tremulous lines, dallying with the zephyrs, one might have fancied them giant serpents of Syria, doing homage to their sovereign, the sun. Hand in hand, about this valley, for 15 years, roamed I with Eleonora, before love entered within our hearts. It was one evening at the close of the 3rd lustrum of her life, and of the 4th of my own, that we sat, locked in each other's embrace, beneath the serpent-like trees, and looked down within the waters of the river of silence at our images therein. We spoke no words during the rest of that sweet day, and our words even upon the morrow were tremulous and few. We had drawn the god Eros from that wave, and now we felt that he had enkindled within us the fiery souls of our forefathers. The passions which had for centuries distinguished our race came thronging with the fancies for which they had been equally noted, and together breathed a delirious bliss over the valley of the many-colored grass. A change fell upon all things. Strange, brilliant flowers, star-shaped, burst out upon the trees where no flowers had been known before. The tints of the green carpet deepened, and when, one by one, the white daisies shrank away, there sprang up in place of them 10 by 10 of the ruby-red asphodel. And life arose in our paths, hitherto unseen. The golden and silver fish haunted the river, out of the bosom of which issued, little by little, a murmur that swelled at length into a loving melody, more divine than that of the harp of Aeolus, sweeter than all, save the voice of Eleonora. And now, a voluminous cloud, which we had long watched in the regions of Hesper, floated out thence, all gorgeous in crimson and gold, and settling in peace above us, sank, day by day, lower and lower, until its edges rested upon the tops of the mountains, turning all their dimness into magnificence, and shutting us up, as if forever, within a magic prison house of grandeur and of glory. The loveliness of Eleonora was that of the seraphim, but she was a maiden artless and innocent as the brief life she had led among the flowers. No guile disguised the fervor of love which animated her heart, and she examined with me its inmost recesses as we walked together in the valley of the many-colored grass, and discoursed of the mighty changes which had lately taken place therein. At length, having spoken one day in tears of the last sad change which must befall humanity, she thenceforward dwelt only upon this one sorrowful theme, interleaving it into all our converse, as in the songs of the Bard of Shiraz, the same images are found occurring again and again in every impressive variation of phrase. She had seen that the finger of death was upon her bosom, that, like the ephemeron, she had been made perfect in loveliness, only to die. But the terrors of the grave to her lay solely in a consideration which she revealed to me one evening at twilight by the banks of the river of silence. She grieved to think that, having entombed her in the valley of the many-colored grass, I would quit forever its happy recesses, transferring the love which was now so passionately her own to some maiden of the outer and everyday world. And then and there I threw myself hurriedly at the feet of Eleonora, and offered up a vow to herself and to heaven that I would never bind myself in marriage to any daughter of earth, that I would in no manner prove recreant to her dear memory, or to the memory of the devout affection with which she had blessed me. And I called the mighty ruler of the universe to witness the pious solemnity of my vow, and the curse which I invoked of him and of her, a saint in Pelusium, should I prove traitorous to that promise. involved a penalty, the exceeding great horror of which will not permit me to make record of it here. And the bright eyes of Eleonora grew brighter at my words, and she sighed as if a deadly burden had been taken from her breast. And she trembled and very bitterly wept, but she made acceptance of the vow, for what was she but a child? And it made easy to her the bed of her death. And she said to me, not many days afterwards, tranquilly dying, that because of what I had done for the comfort of her spirit, she would watch over me in that spirit when departed, and if so it were permitted her, return to me visibly in the watches of the night. But if this thing were indeed beyond the power of the souls in paradise, that she would, at least, give me frequent indications of her presence, sighing upon me in the evening winds, or filling the air which I breathe with perfume from the censers of the angels. And with these words upon her lips, she yielded up her innocent life, putting an end to the first epoch of my own. Thus far I have faithfully said, but as I pass the barrier in time's path, formed by the death of my beloved, and proceed with the second era of my existence, I feel that a shadow gathers over my brain, and I mistrust the perfect sanity of the record. But let me on. Years drag themselves along heavily, and still I dwelled within the valley of the many-colored grass. But a second change had come upon all things. The star-shaped flowers shrank into the stems of the trees and appeared no more. The tints of the green carpet faded, and one by one, the ruby-red asphodels withered away, and there sprang up in place of them, 10 by 10, dark, eye-like violets that writhed uneasily and were ever encumbered with dew. And light departed from our paths, and the golden and silver fish swam down through the gorge at the lower end of our domain, and bedecked the sweet river never again. And the lulling melody that had been softer than the wind harp of Eros, and more divine than all, save the voice of Eleonora, it died, little by little away, in murmurs growing lower and lower, until the stream returned, at length, utterly into the solemnity of its original silence. And then lastly, the voluminous cloud uprose, and, abandoning the tops of the mountains to the dimness of Oli, fell back into the regions of Hesper, and took away all its manifold golden and gorgeous glories from the valley of the many-colored grass. Yet the promises of Eleonora were not forgotten, for I heard the sounds of the swinging of the censers of the angels, and streams of a holy perfume floated ever and ever about the valley. And at lone hours, when my heart beat heavily, the winds that bathed my brow came unto me laden with soft sighs, and indistinct murmurs filled often the night air. And once, oh, but once only, I was awakened from a slumber like the slumber of death, by the pressing of spiritual lips upon my own. But the void within my heart refused even thus to be filled. I longed for the love which had once filled it to overflowing. At length the valley pained me through its memories of Eleonora, and I left it forever for the vanities and the turbulent triumphs of the world. I found myself within a strange city, where all things might have served to block from recollection the sweet dreams I had dreamed so long in the valley of the many-colored grass. The pomps and pageantries of the stately court, and the mad clangor of arms, and the radiant loveliness of woman, bewildered and intoxicated my brain. But as yet my soul had proved true to its vows, and the indications of the presence of Eleonora were still given me in the silent hours of the night. Suddenly, these manifestations, they ceased, and the world grew dark before mine eyes, and I stood aghast at the burning thoughts which possessed, at the terrible temptations which beset me. For there came from some far, far distant and unknown land into the gay court of the king I served, a maiden to whose beauty my whole recreant heart yielded at once, at whose footstool I bowed down without a struggle, in the most ardent, in the most abject worship of love. What indeed was my passion for the young girl of the valley in comparison with the fervor and the delirium and the spirit-lifting ecstasy of adoration with which I poured out my whole soul in tears at the feet of the ethereal Ermengarde? Oh, bright was the seraph Ermengarde, and in that knowledge I had room for none other. Oh, divine was the angel Ermengarde, and as I looked down into the depths of her memorial eyes, I thought only of them and of her. I wedded, nor dreaded the curse I had invoked, and its bitterness was not visited upon me. And once, but once again, in the silence of the night, there came through my lattice the soft sighs which had forsaken me, and they modeled themselves into familiar and sweet voice, saying,
Sleep in peace, for the spirit of love reigneth and ruleth. And in taking to thy passionate heart her who is Ermengarde, thou art absolved, for reasons that shall be made known to thee in heaven, of thy vow to Eleonora.
I apologize for my tardiness. Good evening. Welcome to Playcrafters. Happy Valentine's Day. My name is Sammy. I will be your sommelier this evening. Have you been waiting long?
Very.
Yes.
Very.
Whoops. Look, this next scene, this normally takes about 15 to 20 minutes, but don't worry, because you waited so long, I'm gonna speed us through this, or else my manager is going to have my neck. Wine, right, I could recommend a nice red. Keep it simple, yeah. Yeah, everybody likes sherry, right? That's what I was told to say. I don't know what that is. Could you just do the thing, please? Okay, good. You know, I'm not even really a proper sommelier. I know. I've only been trained to do this job once, okay? I don't even drink wine. I drink, like, those barefoot Fruscato things with my best friend. Yeah, okay, good, you like them, but that's all I know, and I don't...
There.
Okay, Reader, Montresor, you're up. They're making fun of me out here.
The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could. But when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who still will know the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. At length I would be avenged.
Look, get out here, please. Hey, look, I need you to speed through this next part pretty fast. Okay, so just Just get through it.
Get through it.
Yeah, they've already heard this one before. They love it, but can we just go from here? Can you go from right there?
Right here.
Right there. Yes. Please.
Alright.
Stop eating.
What do you think?
Okay.
It must be understood that neither by word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. He did not perceive that my smile now was at the thought of his immolation. He had a weak point, this Fortunato, although in other regards he was a man to be respected and even feared. He had prided himself on his connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. Fortunato, like his countrymen, was a quack.
Excuse me?
But in the matter of old wines, he was sincere. I was skillful in the Italian vintages myself, and bought largely whatever I could. It was about dusk one evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season that I encountered my friend.
There's a carnival. Oh, I need party guests. Can someone just go to the carnival, please? Thank you.
He had accosted me with excessive water, for he had been drinking much. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand.
My dear Fortunato, you are luckily met! And how remarkably well you are looking today. I have received a pipe of what passes for Amontillado, and I had my doubts.
Al? Amontillado? A pip? Impossible! And in the middle of the carnival?
Are we doing accents? I have my doubts, and I was silly enough to pay the full Amontillado price without consulting you in the matter. You were not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain. As you are engaged, I am on my way to Lucchesi. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me.
Lucchesi cannot tell Amontillado from a sherry.
And yet, some fools will have it that his taste is a match for your own.
Oh, come, let us go to your vaults.
My friend, no, I will not impose upon your goodwill. As I perceive, you have an engagement, and the severe cold with which I perceive you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damp. They are encrusted with nitre.
Get on with it.
There were no attendants at home. I had told them that I should not return until the morning, and had given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. These orders were sufficient, I well knew, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all, as soon as my back was turned. I passed down a long and winding stair, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. We came at length to the foot of the descent, and stood together on the damp ground of the catacombs of the Montresor.
The pip?
It is a far crawl, but observe the white webwork which gleams from these cavern walls.
We don't need to hear about the moss.
But I need to ingratiate myself with it. Feels me convinced that you're deeply
It is nothing.
Come, my friend, let us go back. Your health is precious. You are rich, respected, admired, beloved.
We get it.
Enough! The cough is mere nothing. It will not kill me. I shall not die of a cough.
True. True, and indeed I did not intend on alarming you unnecessarily, but you should use all proper caution. Come, a draught of this Medoc will defend us from the damps. Drink.
I drink to the buried that repose around us.
And I to your long life.
The wine sparkled in his eyes, and the bells tinkled. My own fancy grew warm with the Medoc. We had passed through walls, piled bones, with casks and puncheons intermingling into the inmost recesses of the catacombs.
See the nitre! It increases.
It hangs like moss upon the walls. We are below the river. The drops of moisture trickle.
What did I say about the moss?
You jest! But let us proceed to the Amontillado.
Be it so.
We continued our route in search of the Amontillado. We passed through a range of low arches, descended, passed on, and descending again arrived at a deep crypt, in which the foulness of the air caused our flambeaux rather to glow than flame. At the most remote end of the crypt, there appeared another, less spacious. Its walls had been lined with human remains, piled to the vault overhead in the fashion of the great catacombs of Paris.
Proceed. Herein is the Amontillado. As for Lucchese,
Ah! He is an ignoramus! Ignoramus.
oh no.
Yeah.
Place your hand against the wall. You cannot help but feel the needle. Indeed, it is very damp. Once more, let me implore you to return. No? Then I will positively leave you. But first, I must render you all the little attentions in my power.
The Amontillado.
True, the Amontillado.
I uncovered a quantity of building stone and mortar. With these materials, and with the aid of my trowel, I began vigorously to wall up the entrance of the niche.
Oh, wow.
When at last the clanking subsided, I resumed my trowel, and finished without interruption the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh tier.
Without interruption.
The wall was now nearly upon a level with my breast. I again paused, and, holding the flambeau over the mason work, threw a few feeble rays upon the figure within. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had completed the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th tier. I had finished a portion of the last and the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its destined position.
A very good joke, indeed. An excellent jest. We will have many a rich laugh about it at the palazzo over our wine. But is it now getting late? Will they not be waiting for us at the palazzo? Lady Fortunato and the others. Let us be gone.
Yes, let us be gone.
For the love of God, Montresor!
Yes, for the love of God. Fortunato. Fortunato.
My heart grew sick on account of the dampness of the catacombs. I hastened to make an end of my labor. I forced the last stone into its position. I plastered it up. Against the new masonry, I re-erected the old grand pot of bones. For the half of a century, no mortal had disturbed them.
In pace, requiescat.
Okay, sorry. Okay, that was good, right? Thank you. There is wine. There is more wine than in this bottle downstairs. And fresh hot hors d'oeuvres for you to enjoy. And also roses to buy. If you don't have anyone to buy one for, you can buy one for me. Ayo. It's intermission. Go. Get up. Literally go. Literally start moving. Go buy raffle tickets. Go buy roses. Drink wine. Be merry. Have a good time. Enjoy yourselves.
Tammy, can I have my book back?
Yes. That's a good one. I read it.
Welcome back. I hope there was no trouble downstairs. I can only assume that our last full act of culinary teasing might have led to a few unexpected purchases and much appreciated donations. Rest assured, there will be many more delights available at the end of tonight's program. That being said, on with the show. Next up, we have for you a mournful pork loin. This succulent cut is stuffed with an earthy morel mushroom filling, glazed with a mulberry sauce and resting on a bed of black rice. You might find its presentation somehow evocative of the Eleonora, but I'll leave this interpretation up to you. Following that dish will be a short palate cleanser to prepare you for your final entree. Woo!
With a feeling of deep but most singular affection, I regarded my friend Morella. Thrown by accident into her society many years ago, my soul, from our first meeting, burned with fires it had never before known. But the fires were not of errors, and bitter and tormenting to my spirit was the gradual conviction that I could in no manner define their unusual meaning or regulate their vague intensity. Yet we met, and fate bound us together at the altar. And I never spoke of love or thought of passion. She, however, shunned society, and attaching herself to me alone, rendered me happy. It is a happiness to wonder. It is a happiness to dream.
Have you prepared your vows?
It is unnecessary.
Please continue.
You're married!
Morella's erudition is profound. As I hoped to live, her talents were of no common order. Her powers of mind were gigantic. I felt this, and in many matters became her pupil. I soon, however, found that Morella, perhaps on account of her Presburg education, laid before me a number of those mystical writings which I usually considered the mere dross of the early German literature. These, for what reasons I could not imagine, were her favourite and constant study, and that in process of time they became my own, should be attributed to the simple but effectual influence of habit and example. In all this, if I err not, my reason had little to do. My convictions, or I forget myself, were in no manner acted upon by the imagination, nor was any tincture of the mysticism which I read to be discovered, unless I am greatly mistaken, either in my deeds or in my thoughts. Feeling deeply persuaded of this, I abandoned myself more implicitly to the guidance of my wife, and entered with a bolder spirit into the intricacy of her studies. And then, when poring over forbidden pages, I felt the spirit kindle within me, would Morella place her cold hand upon my own, and wake up from the ashes of a dead philosophy some low singular words, whose strange meaning burnt themselves in upon my memory. And then, hour after hour, would I linger by her side, and dwell upon the music of her thrilling voice, until at length its melody was tinged with terror, and fell like a shadow upon my soul, and I grew pale, and shuddered inwardly at those two unearthly tones. And thus joy suddenly faded into horror, and the most beautiful became the most hideous, as guilt became Gehenna. It is unnecessary to state the exact character of these disquisitions, which, growing out of the volumes I have mentioned, formed for the same long time almost the sole conversation of Morella and myself. By the learned in what might be termed theological morality, they will be readily conceived, and by the unlearned they would, at all events, be little understood. The wild pantheism of Fichte, the modified polygeneia of the Pythagoreans, and, above all, the doctrines of identity as urged by Schelling, were generally the points of discussion presenting the most of beauty for the imaginative Morella. That identity, which is not improperly called personal, I think Mr. Locke truly defines to consist in the sameness of a rational being. And since by person we understand an intelligent essence having reason, and since there is a consciousness which always accompanies thinking, it is this which makes us all to be that which we call ourselves, thereby distinguishing us from other beings that think, and giving us our personal identity. But the principium individuatoris, the notion of that identity which at death is or is not lost forever, was to me at all times a consideration of intense interest, not more from the mystical and exciting nature of its consequences, than from the marked and agitated manner in which Morella mentioned them. But indeed, the time had now arrived when the mystery of my wife's manner oppressed me as a spell. I could no longer bear the touch of her wan fingers, nor the low tone of her musical language, nor the lustre of her melancholy eyes. And she knew all this, but did not upbraid. She seemed conscious of my weakness or my folly.
It is a fate, I suppose.
She seemed also conscious of a cause, to me unknown, for the great gradual alienation of my regard, but she gave me no hint or token of its nature. Yet was she woman, and pined away daily. In time, the crimson spot settled steadily upon the cheek, and the blue veins upon the pale forehead became prominent, and in one instant my nature melted into pity. But in the next, I met the glance of her meaning eyes, and then my soul sickened and became giddy with the giddiness of one who gazes downward into some dreary and fathomless abyss. Shall I then say that I longed with an earnest and consuming desire for the moment of Morella's decease?
I did.
But the fragile spirit clung to its tenement of clay for many days, for many weeks and irksome months, until my tortured nerves obtained the mastery over my mind, and I grew furious through delay, and, with the heart of a fiend, cursed the days, and the hours, and the bitter moments which seemed to lengthen and lengthen as her gentle life declined, like shadows in the dying of the day. But one autumnal evening, when the winds lay still in heaven, Morella called me to her side. There was a dim mist over all the earth, and a warm glow upon the waters, and, amid the rich October leaves of the forest, a rainbow from the firmament had surely fallen. As I came, she was murmuring in a low undertone, which trembled with fervour, the words of a Catholic hymn.
Santa Maria, turn thine eyes upon the sinner's sacrifice. From fervent prayer and humble love, from thy holy throne above. At morn, at noon, at twilight dim, Maria, thou hast heard my hymn, and joy and woe and good and ill, Mother of God, be with me still. When my eyes you gently by, and no storms soar in the sky, my soul lest it should true and be, thy love did guide to thine and be. Now with clouds of faith o'ercast, all my present and my past, let my future radiance shine, with sweet hopes of thee and I. It is a day of days, a day of all days, either to live or die. It is a fair day for the sons of earth and life, more fair for the daughters of heaven and death. I am dying, yet shall I live. Therefore for me, Marella, thy wife, hath in a charnel house no terror bark me, not even the terrors of the world. The days have never been when thou wouldst love me. But her, whom in life thou didst abhor, in death thou shalt adore.
Morella!
I repeat that I am dying, but within me is a pledge of that affection, how little, that you felt for me, Marella. And when my spirit departs, shall the child live, thy child and mine, Marella's. But thy days shall be days of sorrow. That sorrow which is the most lasting of impressions, as the cypress is the most enduring of trees. For the hours of thy happiness are over, and joy is not gathered twice in a life, as the roses are pressed twice in a year. Thou shalt not then play the tear with time, but be ignorant of the myrtle and the vine thou shalt bear about. With thee thy shroud on earth, like the Muslims at Mecca.
Morella, Morella, how knowest thou this? But she turned away her face upon the pillow, and, a slight tremor coming over her limbs, she thus died, and I heard her voice no more. Yet, as she had foretold, her child, to which in dying she had given birth, and which grieved not till the mother grieved no more, her child, a daughter, lived. And she grew strangely in size and intellect, and was the perfect resemblance of her supposed father. And I loved her with a love more fervent and more intense than I believed it possible to feel on earth. But ere long, the heaven of this pure reflection became overcast, and gloom and horror and grief came over it in clouds. I say, the child grew strangely in stature and intelligence. Strange indeed was her rapid increase in bodily size. But terrible, oh, terrible, were the tumultuous thoughts which crowded upon me while watching the development of her mental being. Could it be otherwise, when I daily discovered in the conceptions of the child the adult powers and faculties of the woman? When the lessons of experience fell from the lips of infancy? and when the wisdom or the passions of maturity I found hourly gleaming from its full and speculative eye? When, I say, all this became evident to my evolved senses, when I could no longer hide it from my soul, nor throw it off from those perceptions which trembled to receive it, is it to be wondered at that suspicions of a nature fearful and exciting crept in upon my spirit, or that my thoughts fell back aghast upon the wild tales and thrilling theories of the entombed Morella? I snatched from the scrutiny of the world a being whom destiny compelled me to adore, and in the rigid seclusion of my ancestral home, I watched with an agonizing anxiety over all which concerned my daughter. And as years rolled away, and daily I gazed upon her eloquent and mild and holy face, and pored over her maturing form, did I discover new points of resemblance in the child and her mother, the melancholy and the dead. And hourly grew darker these shadows, as it were, of similitude, and became more full and more definite and more perplexing, and to me more terrible in their aspect. For that her smile was like her mother's I could bear, but then I shuddered at its too perfect ideals. That her eyes were like Morella's own I could endure, but then they looked down too often into the depths of my soul, with Morella's intense and bewildering meaning. And in the contour of the high forehead, and in the ringlets of the silken hair, and in the wan fingers which buried themselves therein, and in the musical tones of her speech, and above all, oh, above all, in the phrases and expressions of the dead on the lips of the beloved and the living, I found food for consuming thought and horror, for a word that would not die. Thus passed away 2 lustrums of her life, yet my daughter remained nameless upon the earth.
My child,
And
my love.
were the designations usually prompted by a father's affection, and the rigid seclusion of her days precluded all other intercourse. Morella's name died with her at her death. Of the mother I had never spoken to the daughter. It was impossible to speak. Indeed, during the brief period of her existence, the latter had received no impressions from the outward world, but such as might have been afforded by the narrow limits of her privacy. But at length, the ceremony of baptism presented to my mind in its unnerved and agitated condition a present deliverance from the horrors of my destiny.
What is the child's name?
And at the baptismal font I hesitated. And many titles of the wise and beautiful, of antique and modern times, of my own and foreign lands came thronging to my lips. And many, many fair titles of the gentle and the happy and the good. What prompted me then to disturb the memory of the buried dead? What demon urged me to breathe that sound which, in its very recollection, was wont to make ebb and flow the purple blood in tides from the temples to the heart? What fiend spoke from the recesses of my soul when amid those dim aisles and in the silence of the night I shrieked within the ears of the holy man the syllables?
Morella!
What more than seemed convulsed the features of my child and overspread them with the hues of death, as, starting at that sound, she turned her glassy eyes from the earth to heaven, and falling prostrate upon the black slabs of our ancestral vault, responded,
I am here.
distinct, coldly, calmly distinct, like a knell of death. Horrible, horrible death sank the eternal sounds within my soul. Years, years may roll away, but the memory of that epoch, never. Now was I indeed ignorant of the flowers and the vines, but the hemlock and the cypress overshadowed me night and day. And I kept no reckoning of time or place, and the stars of my fate faded from heaven, and therefore my spirit grew dark, and the figures of the earth passed by me like flitting shadows, and among them all I beheld only
Morella.
the wings of the firmament breathed but one sound within my ears, and the ripples upon the sea murmured evermore.
Morella.
But she died, and with my own hands I bore her to the tomb.
But the mother's crypt, it's empty.
I found no traces of the first in the charnel where I laid the second.
Morella?
How you holding up?
It has been a night.
You're telling me.
Woo. You know, I hope that guy doesn't come in the other one that flaps his gums all the time.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to me.
Hey, Craig, right?
Pamela.
Oh, yeah, no, yes.
Oh, I was like, oh, that's weird. You guys don't see me.
I would have been weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, how you like your first Valentine's Day on the gig, huh?
I agree. Yeah, it's Valentine's Day and she... Do you have anyone you'd like to spend your time with outside of work?
Would you look at the time? Would you mind watching the bar for me?
Yes,
You know what? I'll send someone else. Stay right here.
Just watch it for a second.
Let's go!
Right, all right.
Let me tell you.
All right, I'll bite. Why the long face?
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore,
You're on the clock.
while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, only this and nothing more. Ah, distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow. Sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This, it isn't nothing more." Presently, my soul grew strong and hesitating then, no longer. "Sir," said I, "Work, madam. Truly, your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so faintly you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door, darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, but the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore?" This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word,
Lenore?
merely this and nothing more. Back into my chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard the tapping somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then where thereat is in this mystery explore. Let my heart be still this moment and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more." Open here I flung shut and went with many a flirt and flutter, and there stepped the stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady perched above my chamber door. Perched upon the bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat and nothing more. And then this ebony bird beguiling my said fancy and smiling by the grave and stern decorum of the continental war. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven wandering on the nightly shore. Tell me, what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
Much I marvel this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore, for we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door. Bird, or beast, above the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. And the raven, sitting lonely in the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he utters, till I scarcely more than muttered. Other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me as my hopes have flown before. And then the bird said,
Nevermore.
startled by the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken. Doubtless, said I, what it utters is only stock and store from some unhappy master whom a merciful disaster followed fast and followed faster till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hopes that melancholy burden bore of nevermore. But the raven, still beguiling my said soul into smiling, straight I wheeled the cushioned seat in front of burden, bust, and door. And there upon a velvet sinking I betook myself to linking fancy and fancy, thinking with this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burn into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining on my aged seat at ease, reclining on the cushion's velvet lining with lamp-like gloating ore. And whose velvet violet lining with lamp-like gloating ore she shall press? Ah, nevermore. Then methought there grew dance of perfume from some unseen censer swung by seraphim whose falls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by his angels he hath sent thee, respite and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget the lost Lenore. Quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still of bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolately all adulterated on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore. Is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still of bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore. Tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within a distant Aden it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
Be that word our sign of parting, bird, or flinched, I shrieked upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of the lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door. And its eyes have all the seeming of a demon that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws a shadow on the floor. And my soul, from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor, shall be lifted.
Nevermore.
No, just let me know. Nevermore.
So, you sleeping here tonight, or you want me to call you, Pepper?
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice.
Hello again. I hope you've all enjoyed your time with us tonight. Everything come out okay? Everything was nice? Yeah. Oh, I understand there was a bit of a delay on the wine service. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, sorry. I'll just take that right off of your bill. Woo! Yeah, there you go. Thank you for your patience and your appreciation. Excellent. Your waiter Florence informs me that your final entree will be coming out momentarily. Now this one is a real crowd pleaser and requires no introduction. So keep your eyes peeled. Be still my heart. Although I do understand the chef has been preparing this staple rather on the rare side as of late.
True. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous. I have been and am. And why would you say that I am mad? The disease has sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I continue the story. It is impossible to say how the idea first entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none, passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold, I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now, this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it. Oh, so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern. All closed, so that no light shone out. And then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern, cautiously, Oh, so cautiously. Cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights. Every night. Just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed. And so it was impossible to do the work, for it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, and inquiring how he had passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers and my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my own feeling of triumph to think that there I was, opening the door, little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea. And perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly as if startled. Now, you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was as black as pitch, with a thick darkness, for the shutters were closed, fastened through fear of robbers. And so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily. Steadily. I had my head in, and was about to open the lantern, when my thumb slipped on the tin fastening and the old man sprang up in the bed.
Who's there?
I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour, I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime, I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening, just as I have done night after night, hearkening to the watches in the walls. Presently, I heard, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief. Oh no, it was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. Now I knew the sound well many a night, just at midnight, when all the world slept. It had welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distracted me. I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt, and I pitied him, though I chuckled at heart. I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise when he had turned in the bed. His fears had been ever since growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not.
It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor.
Yes, he has been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions.
It is merely a cricket that has made a single chirp.
But he had found all in vain. All in vain. Because death in approaching him had stalked him with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim, and it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard, to feel my presence in the room. When I had waited a long time very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a single dim ray, like the thread of the spider, shot out from the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue, with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot. And now, have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over-acuteness of the senses? Now, I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. But even yet I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the heart. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous. So I am. And now, at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this incited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet for some minutes longer I refrained and stood still. Then the beating grew louder, louder. I thought the heart was burst, and now new anxiety seized me. The sound could be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. But for many minutes the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall, and at length it ceased. The old man was dead. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead.
His eye will trouble me no more.
If still you think me mad, then you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily, but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head and the arms. And legs. Both legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, so no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything was wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no blood, no stain of any kind, no blood spot, whatever. I had been too wary for that. A tub had caught all. Hey, chef. Sorry to interrupt. We got a refire on table 6. And you're dead, so if you could grab that. Sorry. Where were we? Murder, yes. When I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart. For what had I to fear? There entered 3 men who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police.
A shriek has been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play has been aroused.
Information had been lodged at the police office, and we've been deputed to search the premises.
What had I to fear? I bade the gentleman.
Welcome. The shriek was but my own in a dream. The old man is off in the country.
I took my visitors all over the house.
Search. Search well.
I led them, Adelaide, to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied.
We are satisfied.
My manner had convinced them. I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things. But ere long, I felt myself getting pale and wished them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears, but still they sat. Still they chatted. The ringing became more distinct. It continued and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definitiveness. Until at length I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale, but I talked fluently and with a heightened voice. Yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key and with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides and excited to fury by the observations of the men, but the noise steadily increased. Oh God! What could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore. I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated it upon the boards. The noise rose over all and continually increased. It grew louder, 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 and still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard not? Almighty God, no. No, they heard. They suspected. They knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. They will. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. And now, again, hark, louder, 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 louder!
Villains! Dissemble no more! I admit the deed! Tear up the flags! Here! Here! It is the beating of his hideous heart!
I do hope you've enjoyed your evening. I know we've enjoyed serving you. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we hope we'll see you again. Now, before we send out dessert, there is only the slight matter of the check. Our establishment has a policy against splitting checks, and of course, there is an automatic gratuity applied to any dining group greater than 20 individuals, so. Anyone? Anyone?
This guy.
Sit out here. You seem like you can pay for this. And you know what? I'll let you call me Flo. Coming out shortly, you guys will have a sampling plate of 4 complimentary pastry dishes. Thank you again for dining with us. It's been an immense pleasure. Woo! Thank you in advance for the generous tip. And please, come again. Woo! Take thy kiss upon thy brow, and in parting from you now, thus much let me avow, you are not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet if hope has flown away in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream.
Far away, far away, far away. As far east lies the valley as the day. Down with the golden east, all things lovely. Are not they far away? Far away?
It is called the Valley Nice, and a Syriac tale there is thereabout, which time hath said shall not be interpreted.
Something about Satan's dart, something about angel wings, all about a broken heart, much about unhappy things.
What the valley of Neath at best means a valley of unrest.
Once it smiled a silent dell, where the people did not dwell, having gone unto the wars. And the sly, mysterious stars, with a visage full of meaning.
Or the unguarded flowers were leaning, and the sun ray dripped all red, grew paler then as it fell off that quiet asphodel.
By a route obscure and lonely, haunted by ill angels only.
Where an idler named Knight on a black throne reigns upright.
I have reached these lands but newly, from an ultimate dim tooling.
From a wild, weird clime that lieth sublime out of space, out of time.
In visions of the dark night, I have dreamed of joy departed.
But a waking dream of life and light hath left me broken-hearted.
And what is in a dream by day, at him whose night is light?
And things around him with array turn back upon the past.
That holy dream, while all the world were chiding, hath cheered me as a lovely beam, a lonely spirit guiding. And though that light, through storm and night,
And trembled from afar.
what could there be more purely bright in truth's day star?
By a route obscure and lonely, haunted by ill angels only.
Where an idler named Knight on a black throne reigns upright.
I have reached these lands but newly, from an ultimate dim tooling.
For a heart whose woes are legion, 'tis a peaceful, soothing region.
I stand amid a roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold in my hands the grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep, while I weep, while I weep. Oh God, can I not save them? Save them from my grasp? Oh God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream?
Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream.
Once more, I feel your hands are cold.